Good evening and welcome to Center of Vermont's 2021 Pride Awards. My name is Justin Marsh and I'm the Director of Communications and Development at the Pride Center. We are streaming live from the Media Factory in the south end of Burlington tonight. Hello to all of our viewers on Facebook, YouTube, and on our website at pridecentervt.org. Tonight we are honoring the year's brightest leaders, volunteers, and activists in Vermont's queer community. Since the start of the pandemic, it's become even clearer that our health and wellness is so crucial and encompasses more than just our surface level physical and mental well-being. As highlighted in our statewide town halls earlier this year, we know that includes racial justice, food justice, housing security, reproductive freedom. And for our LGBTQ+ community, it expands to a home and workplace free from discrimination, a safe and affirming health provider, and access to competent care. It's everyone having equitable access to the resources that allow us to be our best selves. So this evening, we'll be recognizing trailblazers who are helping to create a better state of health and wellness to the LGBTQ+ community here in the Green Mountains. Typically, we would be having a lovely evening at the BCA Firehouse Gallery where we could embrace one another, catch up on what's new in our lives, and raise a toast. But this year, we are asking folks to stay home and gather in their pods, listen or watch in the living rooms while they prepare dinner with their family. While it may not have the same flair, on behalf of the staff and board at Pride Center of Vermont, I want to thank you for being here, wherever here may be. Throughout this evening's program, we will be tracking donations on the bar above me, which we hope will raise up to the initial goal of $1,000 tonight. Those funds will help Pride Center of Vermont continue our programs, support groups, and resources for LGBTQ+ Vermonters for the next several months. Thank you for helping us reach our goal tonight and supporting our important work. Let's get right to it. To present our first award of the evening, please welcome Vermont's first trans state legislator and Director of Health and Wellness, my friend, Taylor Small.
Thank you, Justin, and good evening, everyone. It is a privilege to recognize our first award winner of the evening. Our first honoree is a community organizer and activist who currently serves in the Vermont House of Representatives. Since landing in Burlington in 1998, they have worked in the social services field in a variety of roles, primarily focusing on supporting youth and their families during crisis. They started a private clinical social work practice in 2005, where they specialize in psychotherapy with an intersectional lens focused on working with people of color, refugees, immigrants, people with varying gender and sexual identities, and people with different abilities. In addition to their social work practice and political roles, they have been involved in several important community organizing efforts bettering the lives of those in and around the Burlington area. Whether as co-founder of a neighborhood group called Isham Street Gardening and Other Optimistic Doings, which works to change the culture of the Isham Street block through gardening, or volunteering with People's Kitchen, providing meals to those without. Our honoree is always ready to step up to better serve the communities, our communities, health and wellness. Please welcome Representative Brian Cina.
Thank you to the Pride Center for honoring healthcare and human service workers and advocates in 2021. It means a lot to be recognized by the LGBTQ+ community during these difficult times. The coronavirus pandemic has taken a great toll on public health, exacerbating the inequities and disparities of our extractive way of life, especially for those of us who've been historically marginalized, such as people with disabilities, people of color, and the children of the rainbow, our LGBTQ+ community. Over the past few years, the public health emergency of COVID-19 has intensified the public health emergency of racism, which has infected this land for many centuries. The stress and disruption of the coronavirus pandemic have impacted the social determinants of health for all people, both worsening pre-existing health conditions and causing a whole new array of problems. The healthcare and human services system has been flooded with a surge of people seeking help for mental health challenges and substance abuse issues, and our healthcare workforce is drowning. As a social worker in private practice, I cannot keep up with the new calls for help, and there are waiting lists all across our outpatient system of care. When I work as a crisis clinician, there are rooms and halls full of people needing daily reassessments as they languish in the emergency department, and while they're waiting for inpatient beds, and we have lines of more people waiting for new assessments. The rooms in our emergency department that were built to handle a surge of COVID cases have ended up being used for people waiting for inpatient psychiatric care. The rooms in our hotels are being used to provide shelter for thousands of people impacted by the housing crisis, because the human right of housing has been commodified by our market economy, just like all of our other basic needs. As the coronavirus emergency continues to smolder, we continue to burn fossil fuels, and we witness the climate crisis spread like wildfire across the earth. Ecological collapse seems imminent because humans have fallen so out of balance with the earth and with our environment. Although we live in a society that's been designed to disempower us and to disconnect us from the land and from each other, this pandemic has reminded us of the power of our relationships to each other in the great web of life on this beautiful planet. As we face the dark clouds and the torrential rains of the storms of this pandemic, the light within us each still shines brightly, and when we let that line shine forth from us into the raindrops, we make rainbows. The rainbows give us hope. As the light of hope illuminates the storms of despair, it reveals rainbows of resilience, the power of the people to bend, to stretch, to grow, to change, to heal. Somewhere beneath all of the flaws and the strengths of humanity, there is a fundamental goodness in every single one of us. It has been one of my ultimate rewards to stand in the presence of that basic truth, that we are light. And as our light shines into the storms, it refracts rainbows of reliance, the power of the people to take care of each other better. When our tattered social safety net fails and people slip through the holes, we catch each other with mutual aid. Although some choose to kick others when they're down, many of us reach out our hands and we help each other up when we fall, because every single one of us has a place in the circle around the fire. And as the fire in each of us burns through the storms, it ignites rainbows of resistance and reconciliation, the power of the people to come together and to rise up and to overcome oppression. More and more people are waking up and realizing that for many of us, the truth is that the so-called American dream has actually been a nightmare. But the ancestors survived and even thrived in the face of great struggles, building on the work of those who came before them. And we are part of that long line of freedom fighters and warriors of light. And as the light of our collective liberation cuts through the storms of injustice and cruelty, it carves out rainbows of recovery and regeneration. Our ability for self-reflection, the possibility to learn from our mistakes, the potential to reduce the harm of our choices, the opportunity to expand our collective consciousness, and to manifest a new world out of the ashes of the old. And so I'll end with a blessing for the winter solstice. Every morning when the sun rises, let our inner light blaze forth into the new day. As we wake from sleep, let our dreams transform our reality. As we face the longest nights of the year, let us celebrate the light within us. And when the storm clouds gather and the rain comes pouring down, let us not lament, but let us rejoice. Because without both the light and the rain, we would not be rainbows. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and congrats on your award. Let's take a quick peek at our donation progress, shall we? Looks like we have about a third of the way towards our live progress tonight, and so I want to thank everyone who has donated thus far. You can make a donation during our show by visiting tiltify.com/@PrideCenterVT/awards, or at any time by visiting pridecentervt.org. Our next presenter is a previous Pride Award honoree who has been recognized throughout the region for her superior care as lead medical provider of Community Health Center of Burlington's Transgender Clinic. In her practice, trans Vermonters find a much-needed, safe, specialized, and non-judgmental environment for access to the healthcare services that those who do not hold marginalized identities simply take for granted. In 2016, our friends at Outright Vermont recognized her dedication to her patients, being awarded the Lifetime Queer Youth Advocate Award for her role in making Vermont a better, healthier place. Please welcome Dr. Rachel Inker.
Our first honoree self-identifies as a queer, first-generation American, daughter, sister, friend, partner, healing justice organizer, clinical social worker, consultant, community member, survivor, spicy food enthusiast, and lifelong learner. They hold a deep affinity for exploring intimacy and attachment with people of all ages and identities. Through their Winooski-based practice, Bad Indian Wife, they aim to help Vermonters of color move away from unjust social conditioning and move towards becoming their best selves. For the past year, they have focused on creating therapeutic support spaces that are free to participants and are safer and easier to access for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color in Vermont. I am pleased to present this Pride Award to Coco Casper.
Wow. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for this incredible honor of being formally recognized by the Pride Center of Vermont community, not only for the work that I'm doing, but for who I am as a person. For those who don't know anything about me, which would make perfect sense, seeing as I've never even stepped foot in the Pride Center in the 11 years I have been here, I am a queer Indian social worker and healing justice organizer, survivor, dreamer, relationship builder, and spicy foods enthusiast. More importantly, I am the granddaughter of Pushpa, Baharlal, Annie, and Kunjachan, the eldest daughter of Rita and Massey, sibling to Zachary, and life partner to Jordan, my loving North Star. Like so many Indians, whether in our country of origin or displaced elsewhere in the diaspora, it felt impossible to explore queerness at a young age, never mind my own queerness. It wasn't until my early 20s when I left the constraints of the education system and oppressively gendered spaces for life in a city wholly unbothered by the idea of how it's always been done, that I first saw glimpses of my true self. And to be honest, years later, I'm still catching my reflection in the mirror and seeing new parts of me. For this brown body of mine, born from a culture where sexuality is sinful and shameful, to be seen as thrilling, but to see myself, to really see myself accepting this award for my pride, this is beyond my dreams. This is never something I dreamt about because until last week, it never felt possible. Indian femmes particularly have a hard time accepting recognition for who we are over what we give, produce, or accomplish. And perhaps this is because we come from a collectivist culture and land ravaged by European colonization to the point where our own people have internalized our worth as being relative to a system that oppresses us over our worth relative to a society that imagines us as free. So you might be thinking, how does someone who's never been in the Pride Center before receive the Vermont Pride Award? Who is this person anyway? Well, the self-actualized person that you are laying eyes on is a product of so many lessons, relationships, and community teachers who have emboldened me to own this pride. And because I have found my sense of pride, I want to share something with you that I wouldn't have dared to say years ago. As a first-generation child of immigrants with a mixed caste background, the Pride Center has not been a place that I recognized as a home. The Pride Center has not historically filled me with much pride at all. And this saddens me because the Pride Center has the potential to be a space where everyone, regardless of color, class, and creed, sees themselves reflected back in full spectrum. I would like to very graciously accept this award in acknowledgement of how far we've come. But I also want to name some of my peer mentors of the global racial majority who deserve this award just as much. Candace Taylor, Jabari Jones, Hannah Sadek, Farine Paris-Meyer, and Zamora Cleopatra da Vinci have all deeply shaped my personal ability to love and take pride in who I am and what I have chosen to do with my life and for our shared community. I accept this award with their blessing, and I look forward to seeing how the Pride Center continues to evolve and center voices that make others uncomfortable in our collective pursuit for the health and safety of LGBTQIA folks in Vermont. Thank you.
Coco, congratulations, and thank you for your impactful contributions to the health and wellness of the global majority living here in Vermont. This last summer, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention visited Burlington to film spotlights on awardees of the 30th anniversary of their National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program. The video focuses on our nationally recognized cancer screening campaign, Got 'em, Screen 'em. Take a look, and you might even recognize some familiar faces.
Burlington, Vermont is a town where everybody knows everybody, and it's a place that under the surface, there are a lot of underlying issues, especially when you do public health.
Broadly, we serve, in the Burlington area, at least in some other parts of the state, a really diverse population. A lot of priority populations, including LGBTQ community, new Americans, refugees, migrant workers. Almost everything we do through partnerships. They help us identify what the needs are in the community. We might think we know, but they actually are talking every day to their community members.
The Pride Center of Vermont is important to the community because we are the most comprehensive LGBTQ+ organization for the state of Vermont.
Working with an organization like the Pride Center was just fantastic. We were sort of trying to reach people that we had never thought about reaching before in a really authentic way.
So oftentimes, especially for trans or gender nonconforming folks, they don't know they're going to be received, welcomed warmly, met with their proper pronouns, and met with the type of care that they're needing.
I think there's a lot of silence in the talk about healthcare because there's a big stigma around the external being that you are given versus what's inside that needs to be looked at, and the fear that goes along with being touched in places you don't want to be touched, and reminding you of the gender you don't feel you are, and being misgendered.
There are people who have breasts and there are people who have a cervix who don't think of themselves as a lady.
For a trans man, it is stigmatizing to go to a gynecologist's office and you are the only man in the room.
It's about someone's experiences with discrimination, someone's risks for other healthcare conditions, what makes someone feel small, what makes someone feel powerful and comfortable.
They came up with this campaign that took the gender out of the parts.
So the Got 'em, Screen 'em is really important because it takes the gender out of healthcare and really reduces it to your body. So what does your body have? What does your body need? And then when should you have those things looked at? Partnering with the You First program is really important because it allows us to diversify our programming, expand our health and wellness program, and also educate the population.
Seeing other people who you feel like are like you and have had your journey is really helpful.
You First is about you. You know, you take control of your health.
Wasn't that fascinating? And I'm sure you recognize some of the great work we did at the Pride Center. You can visit pridecentervt.org for more information on cancer screening information for the LGBTQ+ communities. Our next speaker is an activist who was a co-host and presenter at the Women Rising 2020 event in Castleton, as well as the co-creator of Planned Parenthood Action Fund's Race, Gender, and Abortion Virtual Conference. They are Planned Parenthood of Northern New England's regional public affairs organizer, working to empower people in central Vermont to support and lead critical advocacy work to protect reproductive rights and ensure equitable access for all people living in Vermont. Please welcome Sade Bolger.
My name's Sade Bolger, and I'm the Regional Public Affairs Organizer for Central Vermont at Planned Parenthood. I'd love to start tonight by honoring the many people and organizations in the state of Vermont who have worked tirelessly to make it possible for me to stand here in front of you all. Those heroes in our community that have opened the floor for young queer voices like mine to be heard and celebrated in a setting like this evening's. I want to thank the Pride Center of Vermont, the incredible panel of honorees, presenters, and speakers who joined me tonight. I've also loved to thank our hosts for this evening for inviting me to participate and all of the sponsors who've made this event possible. I'll begin with a quote, both to level set, as we say at Planned Parenthood, and to pay tribute to a very special person who has for years been an absolute North Star for me in my work and really shaped how and who I am. This person has role modeled to all of us the significance of articulating and explaining the beautiful and horrific realities of our lives. She did this with an expertise and passion that I could only ever aspire to replicate, and I've witnessed her truths happening all around me every day of my life. Yesterday, I learned that she departed from us physically, but her words and ideas continue to reverberate. They remain essential to our work and the lives we lead. To honor the life and legacy of Bell Hooks tonight, I wanted to highlight some of her words. I came to theory because I was hurting. The pain within me was so intense that I could not go on living. I came to theory desperate, wanting to comprehend, to grasp what was happening around and within me. And most importantly, I wanted to make the hurt go away. I saw in theory then a location for healing. First read these words in a book I was assigned for my gender, sexuality, and women's studies degree program and was immediately brought to tears. I had never heard anyone so succinctly describe the central reason why I'm so drawn to working in this field, nor why healthcare advocacy matters to me as a queer person. I came to work in healthcare advocacy with PPNNE for the same reason I tirelessly obsessed for the past 5 years over studying critical social theory about the world around me. I grew up trusting a healthcare system that by and large treated me as invisible. I never saw myself represented, heard, seen, understood. I came to theory, as Bell Hooks said, desperate and wanting to comprehend. So was the same with my fascination with healthcare advocacy. I wanted to know, why do all laws protecting abortion care only protect cisgender women in their language? Why is the average lifespan of a transgender person in our country so much lower than the lifespan of our cisgender peers? When I seek care, why do I expect my provider to look straight through me? I came to healthcare advocacy for the same reason many of us in the queer community find ourselves in this work, wanting to comprehend the harsh realities of seeking care as a marginalized person in what Bell Hooks called an imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. Until I found Planned Parenthood, I thought it would be impossible to find a healthcare provider who didn't impose this form of erasure on me. Now I see potential in our work to expand access through advocacy in a way that flips this narrative on its head. PPNNE was the first healthcare provider I had in my life where I could be my whole self. We offer LGBTQ+ healthcare services, including gender-inclusive education, hormone therapy, service referrals, and support groups. Each time I visited a PP Health Center, my commitment to this organization grew. I realized the potential we have as an education, advocacy, and healthcare provider to reach hurting people like I was, who are desperately looking for an explanation, a chance to be acknowledged. Speaking our truths as queer inclusive healthcare providers and healthcare advocates helps our patients feel heard and seen. It helps them feel real. I've been honored to advocate for the inclusion of queer voices in the movement to defend reproductive health and freedom. And I envision a future where all patients feel real, and Planned Parenthood is committed to securing that reality. Providing a safe environment where queer and trans community members can access affirming healthcare is a valued tenet of Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. Our 12 locations are proudly part of the Vermont Diversity Healthcare Project database of safe and affirming healthcare providers across the state, courtesy of Pride Center of Vermont. Take a look.
I really like the website because I found a therapist through it. If I was to Google trans competent therapists in Vermont, I don't think anything would come up. I wouldn't even bother Googling that. I felt hopeless. I felt like I'm never going to be able to find a therapist. It's going to be word of mouth. It's going to be people with enormous wait lists. So the really great thing is I was able to find a therapist within a few hours. This is unheard of. I was able to navigate the website and the interactive map to find a therapist. Was truly, it blew my mind because it really doesn't need to be that hard to find LGBTQI+ and trans competent providers. It doesn't need to be that hard, and the website has made it so much easier, and I'm incredibly thankful that I didn't have to spend weeks or months setting up appointments with therapists only to be disappointed. And I think it's incredibly important that efforts go to continue to make this accessible and up to date.
Our Vermont Diversity Health Project now features over 240 health and wellness providers around the state of Vermont. So for more information or to find a safe and affirming healthcare provider for you or someone you know, please visit vdhp.org.
I'm Mike Zenzel, Executive Director of the Pride Center of Vermont. I'm thrilled to be here tonight and with this wonderful new format imagined by our talented MC and Development Director, Justin Marsh. Our goal tonight is to honor those who work to positively impact the health and wellness of the LGBTQ+ communities of Vermont. I'd like to take a moment to talk about our own health and wellness program and our own health and wellness team at the Pride Center of Vermont. Promoting health and safety of LGBTQ+ Vermonters is at the very core of our mission. I'm proud of the work with such an incredible group of dedicated and talented individuals that make up our entire team, whether that's on our staff, our board, whether there are interns, our volunteers, whether there are community partners, some of whom that we're honoring tonight or have recently presented, and also our vibrant community members. Tonight, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you and acknowledge our health and wellness team's work, taking a holistic approach to addressing LGBTQ+ health disparities in our state. Let's start with Taylor Small, Richard Elliott, and Kel Arbor, our current health and wellness team. They're promoting sexual health, HIV prevention, testing, and access to care in a way that centers and celebrates those that are at highest risk. Through our GLAM program and our HIV testing programs, they're working to end stigma and increase safer access to safer sex supplies, PrEP, at-home HIV testing, and our in-person rapid testing, which will begin again in the very near future. I also want to recognize the work of Taylor Small again, Ann Moyer Bralian, Phoebe Zorn, and Justin Marsh, who have worked to increase awareness and access to breast and cervical cancer screenings through outreach campaigns and our GLOW program. And lastly, I feel the need to single out the great work of Taylor Small, our current Director of Health and Wellness. So much of the work just mentioned has occurred under her leadership. Over the last 3+ years, Taylor has worked to expand our Vermont Diversity Health Project, which is our online statewide LGBTQ+ affirming provider list embedded on our site. She has provided training and technical assistance to countless healthcare professionals around the state in some of our most rural communities. Through our Community Health Needs Assessment, she's helped us to identify and prioritize specific health needs impacting our communities. And while we don't have all night to list her accomplishments, I do want to take the time to thank her and express my gratitude as she moves out of her health and wellness role at the center to make room for her work in the Vermont legislature. But don't worry, Taylor will still be on staff at the center. Her new role will be working towards building and improving our education programs. Taylor, thank you for your hard work and leadership in promoting health and wellness in our state. And stay tuned for expanded health and wellness programming in 2022. We can't do this work without your support and your partnership. So Justin, want to give us a little update on what our thermometer is doing?
Thanks, Mike. I would love to give you an update. Very exciting news. We are just $40 shy of our goal tonight with $960 raised so far. So please help us bridge that gap by donating at our website. Back to you, Mike.
Great. So our final presenter this evening is a proud longtime supporter of the Pride Center's work. She is the former president of the medical staff at the University of Vermont Medical Center and is founder and president of Vermont Gynecology, which can be found, again, on the Vermont Diversity Health Project on our site. In 2015, she was honored to receive a Pride Award for community service for her long career-long commitment to providing medical and surgical care to our transgender and gender diverse community. Please join me in welcoming board-certified OBGYN, Dr. Kym Boyman.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't participate live tonight, but it's my genuine honor to be a part of this evening celebrating the impactful work of so many who provide exceptional care to LGBTQ plus Vermonters, a shared passion of so many of us participating in tonight's event. Since 1986, Vermont Cares has been providing services to the HIV-positive community of Vermont. In the 1980s, there was so much uncertainty about the epidemic, the future of the community, and what could be done to help those diagnosed with HIV. Vermont Cares sought to assist clients in any way that would help them maintain their health and focus on treatment, a goal that continues today. For 3.5 decades now, Vermont Cares has been fulfilling its mission to provide and expand life-saving harm reduction services, education, and resources to Vermonters affected by HIV, hepatitis C, and substance use, by increasing access to care, reducing social stigmas, and building relationships. Leading with compassion, modeling how to accept people where they are, and serving 12 of Vermont's 14 counties. Vermont Care services are available at their offices in Burlington, Rutland, St. Johnsbury, and Barre, and elsewhere by their mobile van. Vermont Cares currently provides case management services to over 120 Vermonters living with HIV. In addition to direct services, Vermont Cares often offers prevention services and education. There are, on average, about 20 new HIV infections in Vermont every year. Vermont Cares' work is to get that number to zero and to help Vermont become the first state in the country with 0 new HIV infections. To accept the Pride Award, please welcome Teresa Vizina of Vermont Cares. Congratulations and keep up the excellent work.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here tonight to accept this award in behalf of Vermont Cares. Thank you, Kym, for that fantastic introduction to both Vermont Cares work historically and our work currently. I feel so humbled to be here tonight with all of these amazing leaders in the LGBTQ plus community. I wouldn't be here tonight if it weren't for my executive director, Peter Jacobson, who has led Vermont Cares for almost 20 years in this work. It really is our amazing staff, our volunteers, and the folks that we work alongside that allows us to be here tonight to accept this award. And I'm just really happy to be here. We have been working close to over 3 decades providing advocacy, education, and prevention to Vermonters impacted by HIV, at risk of HIV, and also working with folks impacted by substance use. And through our work, we've been able to increase the health and wellness of thousands of Vermonters. And we do this by creating safe, compassionate spaces where people can really be themselves and feel cared for. And I'm so honored to be a part of that and to share that work with you this evening. We stand in solidarity with all of you here today as we all do the work to continue to fight for the rights of those that we work alongside, to ensure equity and inclusion, to build compassionate communities, and deliver harm reduction services to all corners of the state. We continually expand our reach through our mobile programs, bringing our mobile vans and our personal vehicles into the furthest parts of the state to make sure that no matter where you are, you have access to harm reduction services, to HIV testing, to linkage to treatment and care, and together we can do that better and better every day. I want to definitely send out a huge shout out to the Pride Center. Thank you so much for this award and for the recognition of Vermont Cares work over these 3 decades. Thank you so much, and thank you to my staff, our staff. Each and every one of you brings something unique and special to the work that we do and for the people that we serve, and I want to thank you all as well. It's so hard to be the last person, so no pressure, but everybody who has spoken before me, I just want to send out my gratitude for all the work that you do and the way that we intersect together to support the LGBTQ+ community. So thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Congrats, Teresa and Peter and all the folks at Vermont Cares. You can support the incredible work of Vermont Cares by purchasing a ticket to the Winter is a Drag Ball at Higher Ground in South Burlington happening February 12th. I want to thank you all for staying with us through the evening, for donating to our cause and supporting our work. Big thanks to Physicians Computer Company, Hannaford, Planned Parenthood of Northern New England, AARP Vermont, and the Vermont State Employees Association for their continued support of Pride Center Vermont and valuing the lives of queer and trans Vermonters. Thank you to our presenters, Rachel Inker, Kym Boyman, and Sade Bolger, and special thanks to Taylor Small, who is also here behind the scenes tonight working in the production booth. So many talents. Lastly, we could not have pulled off tonight's live stream without the incredible help of Joey, Drew, Marcy, and Wendy, and the entire crew at the Media Factory. The links to help us meet our fundraising goal, which we are still just a hair shy of, will remain live and open for those who will watch and give at a different later date. Again, thank you. From the Media Factory in Burlington, Vermont, I'm Justin Marsh, and good night and be well.